So I'd like to hand over to Karen, who's going to take it away as our first speaker. Over to you, Karen.
I'm going to give a bit of an update on our WAC activities, and thanks to Janet for giving us this opportunity to do that. My name is Karen. I represent the Women's Action Alliance Canberra. We're called WAC. I've called this talk Going to Parliament and Going Guerrilla, Practivism and Getting It Done. I'm not going to have time to talk about going guerrilla. Maybe some other time we can do that. I'm going to give an update on a couple of protests that we've run, some letter writing we've been doing, meetings we've had with Active Watchful Waiting Australasia and the Australian Christian Lobby. I'll give an update on some organising we're doing to get Kira Bell a group meeting at Parliament House with interested parties. And like I said, I was going to talk about some guerrilla activism we've noticed around town, but sadly I won't have time to get to that today. Let's start with one of our protests. WAC protested the ABC's non-reporting of the Tavistock. This was off the back of the Media Watch episode that dealt with this matter in late August. We were taking advantage of that, so we thought we'd hop down to the ABC in Canberra, which helpfully is at an intersection on the main drag. We set up there on a Saturday morning from 11 a.m, spent a couple of hours there. We were mostly working on public land. This is us just setting up. When we first arrived, you can see the intersection. We were mostly on public land, but occasionally we had the odd incursion onto ABC property. One of the advantages of setting up at the intersection is that lots of people, of course, are stopping in their cars, especially late on a Saturday morning, and people were able to read the placards from their cars. We got lots of honks and support and thumbs up from people in their cars. We only got abuse from maybe 3 or 4 cars, tellingly, all with young people in them who told us to fuck off. There were some passers-by who stopped to talk, but it's not a main thoroughfare here. It is for vehicles, but not for passers-by. You'll see here that not everyone's happy to have their face out there. At WAC, we understand that, so we encourage sisters, if they're not really comfortable with that, wear face masks on such a protest, wear a face mask, wear hats, sunglasses, coats, whatever they feel comfortable with. But you can see our protest here really was focused around the Tavistock and the ABC's not impartial reporting of the Tavistock. One thing that was rather splendid was that the ABC spoke to us. And I think that might be a first. They talking to feminists in this area. You can see here an ABC employee who came down to take some photos and gather intel on us. I think she thought that was a clever thing to do, but we were quite happy to do that. We knew exactly what was going on. So we gave her handouts. We're all with our details on them, so they've clocked us, they know who we are. We had a little chat with her. We mentioned editorial policies, ABC editorial policies 2 and 4, stuff to do with impartiality and reporting the facts. And the employee said, I report the facts and I'm impartial, as are my colleagues. That's the only comment I'll give. I don't know if that's weird or not, but that's what she said. Towards the end of the protest, we were a couple of hours, we were all feeling quite relaxed and happy, so we were brave enough to go up to the front door of the ABC. After that, of course, the sisters headed to the pub. We took our little mini-me's, which are very helpful because some sisters don't want their faces out there, in which case we can take the mini-me's around and protest anywhere we want. That was the Saturday. Then, of course, there was ABC's Q&A, which was coming up on Monday night. In anticipation of that, with the lovely Hannah Moutsey and other interesting people, in anticipation of that, of course, on the Monday after the Saturday that we protested the Tavistock and the ABC, we had to go back to the ABC and do it all again. But just in case Monday night turned out to be a disaster, which it did. So luckily we went back Monday morning, took another couple of photos. A little hard to rally the troops on a Monday, but we were able to then get that out there on Tuesday morning after the Monday night disaster of Q&A. Another protest that we held was at the ACT Magistrates Court. We did this on September the 22nd, which was a public holiday, which was for the Queen's death, observance of that. We discussed that, the ethics of doing that, but we figured we'd go ahead. At this protest, we weren't aiming for foot traffic going past. We were aiming to take photos and awareness raising. I'll talk a little bit about the issue in a minute, the specific issue we were protesting. But in doing it this way on a public holiday, it also meant that we didn't have to advise the sheriff that we were outside, the sheriff of the court. We didn't have to tell them that we were outside because, of course, with courts, you can only protest in certain places. At the ACT Magistrates Court, it's something like the black paved area in front of the bollards, something like that. You can't protest outside the family or children's court. So these are all things that we have to be aware of when running these kind of wactions. So what were we protesting? What we were doing was we were questioning the court's reasoning for its decision to release a 27-year-old male charged with 72 sexual offences related to child sexual assault on bail. That's what we were questioning. He's alleged to have sexually abused his two younger sisters, who were between 5 and 12 years old. This was over a period of 7 years. He pleaded not guilty to all charges, which include incest, assault, choking, sexual assault, and acts of indecency. He was reportedly granted bail in a hearing due to concerns that he would be remanded in the male section of the Alexander McConaughey Centre. That's the AMC. It's the only correctional centre in the ACT. Presiding Magistrate Jane Campbell determined that detaining the defendant in the male section of the correctional centre would be unsuitable, given he identifies as a woman. And she stated, "To my grand astonishment, I am told she," our emphasis, "would be held in the male section of the AMC, and that would clearly not be in the interest of a person who identifies as a woman." So yes, Presiding Magistrate Jane Campbell was grandly astonished. We were grandly fucking astonished too, because we figured that this could be a dire forewarning or a precedent, if you will, a position that the court may take in future in relation to any male who says that he's a woman. And that would be that such men should not be housed in a men's facility. And we were grandly fucking astonished to think that this could very well lead to a man's being housed with women if found guilty. So that was a broader issue that we were protesting. How did we do it? Well, no great secrets here. We made our own placards. We were really workshopping the theme of the courts here: caution, judge women, object. The jury is not out, sex matters. Take the stand for women. We plead for women. Don't lower the bar for men. Blah blah blah. Acquit your duty. Essentially, I mean, these are great placards. Essentially, I'd watched an episode of Rumpole the night before. So this was all in my mind, some of these terrific slogans. We also invited to this protest our men's auxiliary. Sorry to show men on this thing, but there you go. We invited our men's auxiliary. We only invite them if they're going to be useful, in this case, taking photos, putting their legs under placards, that sort of thing. If any sister doesn't want a man at any of our organised events, then he's removed. No questions, no argument, no judgment. But after events are for sisters only, and we went out for lunch. So really, men have a limited utility to us in WAC. Just some photos from the Waction. You'll see we had a good number of women there. Lovely photo opportunity. It was fairly relaxed kind of morning. At some point we did, I mean, this is all good stuff for Twitter, right? At some point we did read out some speeches. We started off by reading out some so-called, what we called them, telegrams of support. They're basically DMs and emails from people like the lady Kit Kowalski, who wished us all the best, as did Janet Fraser. We read those out. We read out messages from Single Sex Prisons WA and Anna McCormack. Like I say, we gave some speeches. We also read out, I love this photo because you can see the nice power fist there from one of the sisters. We also read out a speech on behalf of Jess Williams, the founder of Single Sex Prisons Australia. She was generous enough to write something for us that we could then read out on her behalf with her name. Just some of the protest actions. This photo I want to show because this is interesting. You'll see there I've highlighted one of the sisters is holding a placard, which we've blacked out. We just thought that that placard said trans women are men, which is quite obvious. But in the context of people's employment and things like that, we just thought that might be a bridge too far in identifying sisters and perhaps putting them at risk in terms of security for employment. Other things we've been doing are writing letters. After the Media Watch segment on ACON, we thought we'd jump in on that and write a letter to the Minister for Communications, Michelle Rowland. We CC'd Claire Chandler and Katie Gallagher, who's the Minister for Women. We got back a response from Claire Chandler. That was great, saying, yes, go for it. Thanks for all your work. We got an email back from a lackey at Gallagher's office, a she, her, hers lackey. So, you know, not really expecting much to happen there. One thing we learnt through this, and I know Kit's going to mention this as well, but for various reasons, we had to send this letter to the minister because the sister who wrote it doesn't actually reside in the ACT. She doesn't vote in any of the ACT electorates. It is a better way to get a response from about an issue is to send your letter to your local member, your local representative, not direct to the minister. Send it to your local member and then ask your local member to raise it with the minister. That makes it then a political query between colleagues and not just a query from some random in the community that can be shopped off to the department. So your member should take it to the minister should answer the member, and the member should come back to you. And this is regardless of which side of politics they are on, same side or opposite sides. I'm just going to put up a slide now if anyone wants to write down who we are and get in touch, they can. I'll just put this up here while I talk about a couple of other things we've been involved with or that we know about. You may have heard about the ROGD mums who were here in Canberra to talk to parliamentarians this week. They were a party of 4. They went to Parliament House for some meetings with various parliamentarians, organised, I think, by Kat Kariner and Wendy Francis of the Australian Christian Lobby. I believe they were promised support for an inquiry into gender-affirming practices for young people by the Libs and the Nats and One Nation members. Members from the ALP were asking for more information about what was going on. Some were surprised, some were sceptical, but, you know, possibly able to be piqued. We also met with one of the mothers from Active Watch for Waiting Australasia. That was nice to touch base there. But that's Kat's and Wendy's thing, so they can talk about that in their own spheres if they like, of course. We're also in the next week or so, WAC is going to meet with Dr. Mike Freelander, MP, ALP, House of Reps. He's the chair of the Standing Committee on Health, Aged Care and Sport. That will be on 8th of November. Wendy Francis of the Australian Christian Lobby has organised this for us. The way we figure it, and we've had discussions between Wendy and myself, we're useful to each other. We recognise we're not going to agree on everything. She knows that we're useful to her because it's good to have this seen as not just a religious issue around the traps, and she's useful to us because she can get us meetings up the hill. One of the things she is helping with in terms of the up the hill Parliament House venue is the Keira Bell visit. If you don't know, Keira Bell is coming to Australia, I believe, between the 21st of November and the 16th of December. She'll be heading to Tasmania, Canberra, New South Wales, South Australia, Queensland. She's here to give evidence at the Lyle Shelton case where he's being taken to court by some drag queens. Go and, you know, Google that yourself if you want. But what WAC's going to do is we're contacting national medical associations, child welfare bodies, school principals associations, all those relevant kind of charities as well, asking if they want to meet with Keira when she's in Canberra. What we're offering them is to meet with her at Parliament House, hopefully in the Speaker's rooms, the Speaker of the House in his rooms. That would be nice. It's a bit of an inducement. The objective is not to shop Keira around to the already converted. Our understanding is that she doesn't want that either. What we want is to see if we can pique or guilt those who should be protecting children and those engaged in child safeguarding, where WAC is well aware that people mostly don't care about women. So the issues that affect women with all of this business don't matter. So a large strategic focus for us is children. In the last set of updates, perhaps we've reactivated our blog. So if you go to our website, you can read our blog. Like I say, it's where we can be a little freer with some of our commentary than we can on places like Twitter. We're trying to get a sister on the ACT Ministerial Advisory Council on Women. We don't know if it would be smart to say she's from WAC or if we just try to get her on as an individual. We're still strategizing that one. Sisters have been doing letter writing around the Magistrates Court issue around so-called gender-specific swim times at ACT public pools. We want clarification on what gender-specific means. We've contacted Diana Kenny, asking her if she would be kind enough to share her freedom of information stuff, how she's gone about gathering that for her data. And I think there was a lesson in that. We thought, oh gosh, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. Let's just see if Diana will share her stuff with us. And bang, she did. So just ask, they can only say no. Diana's been very generous in sharing that with us. So we've got a starting point there to get similar data in the ACT if we can. How do we keep in touch with each other? We have a WAC chat in WhatsApp. That's the spot where sisters go in just to share what they've found, but also it's where we organise, where we can say who's available to do this and that. So the WAC chat in WhatsApp is very active and WACtive and wonderful. We also have face-to-face meetings. We socialise. It's all really important to WAC. It's, I think, how we can mobilise, get sisters together, how we can do things together. If we've got enough numbers, we don't all have to be there, right? We've got enough numbers, it looks as though we've always got a few bods that we can shop around. That's us. We're the Women's Action Alliance Canberra. Our motto is let's get it done. That's what we're trying to do, trying to be practical about a few things. If there's any questions, we'd be happy to take them at the end. Thanks so much.